Welcome to my review of all the deaths / kill count from Evil Dead Rise, the 6th installment in the Evil Dead franchise. I hope you enjoy this video. Death number 1 is Jared. Jared stands alone on the dock after reeling in a deadhead, no relation to the Grateful Dead. Traumatized, he calls out for his friend Leo, who went off to take a phone call from his girlfriend Emma. Meanwhile, the malevolent entity in the lake has grabbed both Jared and Leo's fishing poles off the dock and pulled them into the lake. It then uses them by torpedoing them out of the lake to grapple onto Jared's face and throat, pulling him into the lake and maiming his face and strangling him. Death number 2 is Leo. Leo returns to the dock to find Jared is nowhere in sight until he sees Jared appearing to drown. So Leo, being a good friend, tries to take their boat out to the center of the lake to try and save his friend Jared. However, the malevolent entity has other plans. She finishes off killing Jared, and then it forces Leo into the lake by flipping over the boat. Then she turns up the temperature of the lake's water and boils Leo to death. Death number 3 is Will. Will, after a fight with his wife Alice, hops in his car and speeds off and down some back roads, where we see the malevolent entity appear in front of him, forcing his car into an accident in which it rolls over onto its roof. The entity then toys with Will, making it where his seatbelt is unable to unlatch, the windows break, and eventually ignites the fumes coming from the gas tank on fire, resulting in burning Will to death while being trapped in his own car. Death number 4 is the Cremator. The Cremator, trying to be nice to Will's grieving father, Edgar, leaves Edgar to say his last goodbye to Will. However, the malevolent entity still attached to Will's burnt-up carcass inside of the coffin has other plans, and forces Edgar to punch open the coffin with an axe. Will reaches out and burns his father Edgar's arm, spreading the possession. The Cremator returns and the entity just goes ham on him. They don't even show exactly what happens to him, just blood and guts flying everywhere. Number 5 is the family dog Max. Max was just being a normal dog begging for food when Edgar's possession took over and he just started fatally stabbing poor Max. Death number 6 is Thea. Thea gets the car ride from hell. First she gets stabbed with a pair of small scissors, then strangled with the seatbelt by an enraged, possessed Edgar. They crash the car into an area of cut down trees. Joseph manages to get outside of the car, where he gets to witness his father Edgar grab the headrest and use the spiked section of the headrest to beat Thea and then impale her through the side of her head. Deaths number 7 to 10 are just 4 dead bodies that are mentioned in the ledger. Death number 11 is Thea in Deadite form. Thea, after being resurrected, comes back to the Price family home, where in typical Deadite fashion, she starts attacking everyone. Alice manages to send her flying down the stairs, where Joseph takes over and grabs what looks like an old drum machine from Guitar Hero and proceeds to smash her. Death number 12 is Joseph. This scene was just too long for me to show it all in detail, but basically what happens is Joseph gets the crap kicked out of him by his father Edgar, who is in search of the Deadite weapon that Joseph won't disclose the location of, and ends up dying for not disclosing that knowledge. Death number 13 is Joseph in Deadite form. Joseph, now dead and having joined the rest of the Evil Dead Deadites, joins the crusade to find the Deadite's weapon, so he climbs up through an opening in the attic floor where he finds Alice. Alice, who is also searching for the Deadite weapon, tips over a bucket full of a bunch of weapons. While searching for the right one, she begins stabbing Joseph with multiple weapons until she finds the right one and kills him for a second time. Death number 14 is Susan in Deadite possession form. Susan chases Alice out of the attic and down the chimney chute, but things don't end well for Susan, as Alice has brought along with her the gas-powered saw blade trimmer and dismembers Susan in the chimney chute. When all is said and done, you can clearly see Susan's head just roll right out of the fireplace. Death number 15 is Edgar Price in Deadite possessed form. In one final battle with Alice, Edgar tries to attack her, but she still has that trusty gas-powered saw blade trimmer with her and basically does the same thing to him that she did to his wife Susan. Skewers and cuts him up into a bunch of pieces. However, Alice is not done there. Alice, remembering that there was already gas poured all over the room from Deadite Thea, uses her Zippo and lights it up and throws it towards Edgar, engulfing him in flames along with the house. Death number 16 is Max in Deadite form. Max in his Deadite form is a pretty quick death, as Alice just stabs him with the Deadite. Death number 17 is Will in Deadite form. Will in his Deadite form comes back to his childhood home to find Alice. Alice, however, doesn't stick around to get reacquainted. She runs away to a construction area. Will follows her there and pushes her down into a hole that is being prepped for cement. But Alice manages to pull Will down into that same hole where she drives his Deadite body with a jackhammer, destroying and forcing him into and under the cement.